You're listening to an exclusive production from Valio, All or Nothing, The Seduction and Danger of Wealth, How Desire and Risk Collide in the Pursuit of True Power. Chapter 1. Facing the Fire Within, The Awakening of Desire and Awareness. There is a heat in you, a profound, almost secret flame that burns beneath the surface of your everyday life. It is the unignorable energy of desire, the raw pull of ambition, the magnetic recognition of wealth, and the fierce longing for unrestricted power. This is not a casual wish or a passing interest. It is a deep, primal recognition that you were meant to operate on a scale far beyond the conventional. Before any true, lasting transformation can occur, you must stop trying to cool this heat or dismiss its intensity. You must confront the fire that burns within. This confrontation is the single most vital step in the journey towards self-mastery. It is an act of radical self-honesty. Most people are terrified of their own deepest longings. They fear the magnitude of the change their desires would require, or they fear the judgment of a world that prefers comfortable, small-scale aspirations. They bury this powerful energy, hoping it will simply fade. But for you, burying this fire does not extinguish it. It only transforms it into smoke, poisoning your inner atmosphere with regret and a low-grade, constant restlessness. Your first task is to bring this energy into the clear light of day. What is the true object of your ambition? Go beyond the obvious markers of success. We are not interested in the surface-level goal of acquiring things, a certain bank balance, a title, a piece of property. We are interested in the feeling that these external rewards promise to deliver. Are you craving the autonomy to never again be controlled by circumstance? Is it the undeniable respect that allows your ideas to be heard and implemented without question? Is it the capacity to move resources and create monumental impact? Name it, fully and without apology. This is a private conversation between you and your deepest self. There is no need for filtration, no need for the societal editor to step in. A desire, acknowledged and examined, is never dirty or wrong. It is simply raw data about the trajectory of your soul. This acknowledgement is the awakening of awareness. When a desire is unexamined, it is a blind spot. It functions as a hidden engine, driving you compulsively and often defensively. This is the danger of unexamined desire. It becomes a tyrant. It dictates your choices, forces your hand, and can lead you into situations that feel powerful on the outside but leave you hollow on the inside. You are not the master. You are the puppet, dancing to the tune of an unacknowledged emotional hunger. The path to self-mastery requires you to seize the reins of this energy. You must transform the magnetic allure of wealth and influence from a seduction into a conscious tool. To do this, you must learn to distinguish between two fundamentally different types of desire, for their origins determine your entire experience. The first is the desire for rescue. This is ambition fueled by a deficit. It originates from past pain, a memory of scarcity, a feeling of humiliation, or the deep, old need for external validation. When ambition is a quest for rescue, you are trying to use wealth to fix something broken in your past. This chase is doomed to be perpetual, because no amount of money can truly heal a childhood wound or silence an inner critic. The void simply expands to accommodate the new acquisition. This desire is relentless and never satisfying. The second is the desire for expansion. This is ambition fueled by purpose and vision. It originates from an overflowing potential that demands to be manifested in the world. This desire is generative. It seeks resources not to fill a hole, but to build a structure that allows you to express your maximum capability. When you operate from this place, the pursuit of wealth becomes a disciplined, focused art form, a necessary part of bringing your immense vision to reality. The key to your transformation lies in figuring out which of these two energies is currently driving your vehicle. Take a painful, honest inventory. When you visualize financial success, does the feeling that washes over you sound like, "Finally, I can stop worrying, or does it sound like? Finally, I can begin building. This necessary excavation work is your emotional currency. The more honest you are about the underlying emotional currents, the subtle fears, the buried insecurities, the more power you reclaim from them. When you name the fear, it loses its power to secretly control your reactions and decisions. For example, a sudden surge of aggressive ambition might, upon examination, be traced not to a business opportunity, but to a deeper, unacknowledged fear of feeling irrelevant or unseen. The desire for a financial win is simply the soul's clumsy attempt to guarantee visibility. By recognizing this, you can address the root, the need for self-acceptance and grounded self-worth, rather than frantically chasing an external symbol that will never truly deliver the inner peace you seek. This is the process of turning the magnetic pull inward. You stop treating the external world as the source of your fulfillment and begin treating it as the mirror reflecting your internal state. To cultivate this mastery, you need a practice of disciplined inquiry. When the powerful current of ambition flares up, that urgent, consuming need to act, to acquire, to conquer, do not suppress it, but do not immediately obey it. Instead, treat that surge of energy as a vibrant, undeniable signal that requires your full, focused attention. Stop. Create a space of silence around the feeling. Ask, what belief is currently fueling this intensity? What is the underlying emotional risk I feel I must avoid at all costs? Is this a move of necessity or a move of ego defense? This deliberate pause and dissection is your most powerful defense against obsession and self-sabotage. It allows the intense, raw energy of your desire to pass through the filter of your conscious mind. You are essentially taking the wheel from the emotional part of your brain and placing it firmly in the hands of your clear, strategic wisdom. This transformation of unexamined desire into focused intention is the core of your emerging power. Unexamined desire is fragmented and reactive. I need this deal to work, or I'm a failure. This energy carries the weight of past baggage, leading to desperate decisions and clouded judgment. Focused intention is whole and proactive. I choose to pursue this deal because it is the most efficient channel for my resources and my vision. This energy is clean, strategic, and calm. It operates from a position of plenty, not lack. Your intensity is not a psychological flaw to be medicated or minimized. It is a tremendous kinetic resource. It allows you to commit with a depth, a tenacity, and a singular focus that leaves others behind. It enables you to dive into the necessary dark work of transformation that they perpetually avoid. This intensity is the fire, and your conscious awareness is the furnace that contains and channels its heat. Your journey is about learning to be the master alchemist of your own interior world. You must recognize that true power begins with the understanding that the greatest risks and the greatest rewards are both found within the deep chambers of your own heart and mind. Embrace the raw, consuming flame of your ambition. Do not shrink from its heat, but learn to observe it, respect it, and direct it with an unwavering hand. By acknowledging your longings without apology and understanding the emotional currents they carry, you turn the seduction of wealth into a powerful, clear, and unstoppable force for your true becoming. In the next 24 hours, identify one decision you make, no matter how small, that is driven by the desire to avoid a negative feeling, fear of missing out, fear of being judged, fear of loss. Observe the defensive energy of that choice. The moment you see it, you are already reclaiming your power, choosing awareness over automatic reaction. Chapter 2. Into the shadows. Confronting the obsession that controls you. You have faced the fire within. You have acknowledged the immense raw energy of your desire. Now the journey must take an inevitable turn. We must descend into the shadows. Ambition in its pure form is a magnificent engine, but ambition unchecked, unexamined, and driven by hidden wounds can swiftly transform into a silent tyrant. It takes root in the deeper, quieter recesses of your mind, dictating your thoughts, driving your actions, and convincing you that the relentless pursuit is the only way to feel whole. This is where the line between powerful commitment and destructive obsession blurs. The shadow is not an enemy to be defeated. It is the untapped wisdom of your inner world. It holds the clues to every pattern that secretly sabotages your progress, every fear that keeps your power locked down, and every compulsion that threatens your integrity. Your work now is to shine a focused, steady light onto these hidden forces. Why do we often find ourselves repeating the same cycles, even when we consciously know better? Why does success sometimes feel fleeting, followed by an inexplicable setback? The answer lies in the patterns beneath the surface. These are the deep grooves carved by old conditioning, unhealed emotional debts, and unspoken beliefs about what you deserve. Let's begin with the concept of the compulsion. Compulsion is the shadow of commitment. Commitment is a choice made from clarity and discipline. Compulsion is a frantic, anxious energy, a must that overrides all logic and balance. Think about your own patterns concerning wealth, achievement, or control. Where does your drive tip over into a restless anxiety? Do you feel a deep, physical need to constantly check your investments, your emails, or your performance metrics, even when there is no rational urgency? Do you define your worth purely by the latest win, leading to crushing self-doubt during inevitable lulls? Do you find yourself drawn to high-risk scenarios not for strategic gain, but for the sheer intensity of the rush? These are subtle signs that the hidden desire for control has mutated into a controlling obsession. The obsession promises relief. If I just achieve this one thing, then I can rest. But the relief never arrives because the underlying source of the anxiety is internal, not external. To gain clarity, you must first identify the habit that is secretly controlling you. This is usually a pattern you engage in to numb or avoid a specific feeling. For example, many driven individuals use constant activity as a shield. The obsession with being perpetually busy, with never having a blank spot in the calendar, is often a subconscious strategy to avoid the difficult work of sitting in stillness with themselves. The shadows, the truths they fear, can only surface in the silence. So, they maintain a relentless pace to keep the shadows at bay. But this hyperactivity leads to exhaustion, burnout, and strategic blunders caused by lack of true reflection. The power move here is to deliberately and strategically break the pattern of avoidance. If your compulsion is constant work, schedule a deliberate hour of non-negotiable stillness. If your habit is immediate reaction to every piece of news, impose a 24-hour reflection period before making any significant reply or decision. By creating this small, conscious gap, you disrupt the obsessive flow and reclaim the choice. Next, we must confront the unspoken fear that feeds the obsession. The most powerful fears are often contradictory to the image you project to the world. A person obsessed with financial security may secretly harbor a deep fear of abandonment, believing that only overwhelming wealth can guarantee loyalty and closeness. A person obsessed with professional dominance may secretly fear insignificance, believing that only command over others can protect them from being ignored. Your task is to dive past the protective facade and ask the piercing question: if I lost everything I am currently obsessed with achieving, what is the single deepest pain I would be left with? Be prepared for the answer to be something surprisingly simple and profoundly human. I would be unloved. I would be forgotten. I would be unworthy. The moment you surface that core fear, you perform a secret alchemy. The fear transforms from a source of desperate, driving energy into a piece of information. You realize that your relentless pursuit was not actually about the external goal, but about desperately trying to solve an inner, emotional problem with a material solution. And here is the crucial insight. The shadows are not your enemies. They are your greatest teachers. The obsession is simply a misguided attempt by your psyche to keep you safe. By confronting it, you are not destroying a part of yourself. You are simply integrating its protective wisdom and replacing its clumsy method with your refined, conscious strategy. When you shine the light on these shadows, you gain clarity and control. This allows you to apply your magnificent intensity, your signature drive, with discipline rather than being used by it through compulsion. Discipline is the controlled channeling of your power. It is the ability to choose the necessary, difficult path over the easy, addictive one. When your shadow is driving, discipline feels like deprivation. When your sovereign self is driving, discipline feels like unshakable alignment with your deepest purpose. It is the ultimate expression of self-respect. To practice this disciplined action, start by applying your intensity to the parts of your life you have neglected due to the obsession. If your obsession has been purely external, chasing market gains, use your disciplined focus to address your physical health, your personal relationships, or your foundational learning. The true master understands that power is holistic. A leak in any area of your life eventually drains the whole reservoir. The shadows you confront here are the final barriers to unrestricted self. They are the chains that keep you tethered to the past. By examining your habits, fears, and compulsions with an unflinching gaze, you are doing the difficult, necessary work of self-reclamation. You are moving from a state of being driven to a state of being in command. You are taking the raw material of your past psychological pain and transmuting it into the gold of clear, strategic action. This is the ultimate confrontation, and it is the birthplace of your unstoppable power. Identify one recurring habit this week, small or large, that you engage in purely out of anxiety or to avoid a specific feeling. For one day, choose to sit with the uncomfortable feeling instead of engaging in the habit. Observe the fear that rises. This act of quiet, unmoving resistance is your first step in mastering the obsession. Chapter 3. The Temptation of Control, Balancing Influence with Surrender. The descent into your shadows has given you a profound clarity. You've seen where raw ambition can turn into obsession. Now, we confront the next great obstacle on the path to true power, control. Control feels like power, doesn't it? It has that irresistible magnetic pull. It promises absolute safety. If you can just orchestrate every variable, if you can predict every outcome, then you will be safe from the pain of surprise, loss, or betrayal. This need to dominate the environment is a profoundly human drive, but for those with your inherent intensity, the temptation of control can be a subtle intoxication that traps more than it liberates. True mastery is not about controlling everything around you. It's about knowing exactly what to influence and what to release. The illusion of total control is a fragile cage. It demands constant vigilance, burns endless energy, and creates friction in every interaction. When you try to micromanage the world, the decisions of your partners, the behavior of the market, or the trajectory of complex events, you are fighting the fundamental, chaotic nature of reality. This fight is exhausting, and it is a losing battle. The effort you expend on controlling the uncontrollable is energy stolen directly from the disciplined pursuit of your actual goals. To break free from this cage, we must first examine the roots of this craving for dominance. Just like unexamined desire, the need for control is often a shield against an old, deep vulnerability. Where in your past did you feel profoundly powerless? Was there a time when chaos or betrayal felt so overwhelming that your only defense was to swear you'd never be caught unprepared again? The intense craving for control is frequently a protective reflex, the adult self attempting to insulate the wounded, vulnerable inner core from repeating a traumatic loss of power. It is a defense mechanism frozen in time. The irony is profound. The more desperately you cling to control, the more rigid and brittle you become. When the inevitable, unpredictable forces of life arrive, a market correction, an unexpected choice by a colleague, a health crisis, your rigidity means you shatter rather than bend. Flexibility, paradoxically, is the highest form of control. Your journey now is to master the delicate art of discernment, knowing precisely when to assert authority and when to practice strategic surrender. Asserting authority. Your intensity, when channeled correctly, grants you incredible influence. When you assert authority, it must be used only on the variables that are truly within your sphere. 1. Your vision and direction. Be ruthlessly clear on your own goals and principles. Do not allow external pressure to dilute your ultimate aim. 2. Your resources and energy. Maintain unyielding control over your time, your focus, and your non-negotiable personal boundaries. 3. Your execution of fundamentals. Control the quality, precision, and discipline of your own work. This is the healthy, constructive use of dominance, self-command. You are dominating your own inner world and setting the highest possible standards for your personal output and integrity. This influence is earned, and it is unshakable. Practicing strategic surrender. This is the harder, more counterintuitive work. Strategic surrender is not defeat. It is a calculated release of friction to conserve energy and gain perspective. You surrender control over 1. Other people's choices. You can influence, incentivize, and lead, but you cannot control the free will of others. Trying to do so poisons trust and fosters resentment. You must release the outcome and focus only on the quality of your interaction. 2. The timeline of the universe. Life unfolds according to its own complex rhythm. You must move with disciplined intention, but learn to respect the pauses, the delays, and the unexpected detours. Fighting the timeline only generates stress and impatience. 3. The past. Releasing the desire to relitigate old decisions or past slights. The past is fixed. Surrender the need to have been right and reclaim the energy that was bound up in that struggle. When you strategically surrender these external elements, an immense liberation occurs. You free up mental bandwidth that was previously dedicated to policing the uncontrollable. This bandwidth can now be redirected toward deeper analysis, creative problem solving, and the focused actions that actually move the needle on your goals. The intoxication of influence is subtle. It makes you feel indispensable. You might convince yourself that if you don't personally oversee every detail, everything will fall apart. This is the ego's trap. It mistakes involvement for impact. True, lasting influence is built on system creation and trust. It is about establishing clear principles and processes that function elegantly without your continuous, exhausting intervention. It is the ability to walk away, knowing the machine you built will continue to run with precision. This requires the profound trust that you have selected capable partners and delegated with clarity. Mastery truly begins when you learn to wield power without being consumed by it. The pursuit of control often leads to a life that is high on output, but low on joy and connection. A life of perpetual tension and micromanagement is the definition of internal servitude, regardless of external riches. Your integrity, the core of your unshakable power, depends on finding this balance. Use your intensity to command your focus, your energy, and your vision. Then, use your wisdom to release the external friction and allow the rest of the world to move according to its own nature. This shift transforms you from a stressed micromanager into a strategic orchestrator. You become the eye of the storm, perfectly still, perfectly centered, and wielding influence not through brute force, but through clear, intentional positioning and the profound power of self-command. Identify one area this week, a project, a relationship, or a minor daily routine, where you are trying too hard to control an external outcome. Deliberately choose to release your grip on that single outcome. Consciously surrender it. Instead, focus all your intense energy on the single action within that situation that you can control, e.g., your preparation, your delivery, or your boundary. Observe the immediate release of tension and the strategic clarity that follows. Chapter 4. Crisis as Catalyst. Transforming struggle into strength. You have navigated the seductive pull of control and the quiet traps of obsession. Now, the path demands the most intense form of transformation, the confrontation with crisis. It is a certainty of a life lived at this level of intensity that setbacks will occur. Financial reversals, profound betrayals, the destruction of a carefully built plan, or a period of crushing inner conflict. These moments can feel devastating. They hit with the force of an ending, creating a chasm of fear and uncertainty. But for the soul committed to true mastery, a crisis is never just an ending. It is always a catalyst. It is the fire that melts the old form and releases the essential metal for a new, stronger creation. Every challenge you face carries the powerful seed of rebirth. The world often teaches us to fear pain, to avoid struggle, and to seek comfort above all. This approach ensures a long life, perhaps, but a life of diminished returns. You, however, are wired for depth. You understand, perhaps instinctively, that the greatest breakthroughs are forged not in comfort, but in the crucible of difficulty. Your work during a crisis is not to panic or recoil, but to step into the fire without fear. Why without fear? Because fear is a cloud that obscures the most valuable asset a crisis provides: clarity. When everything that felt stable is suddenly unstable, the truth stands starkly revealed. The crisis acts as a ruthless mirror, forcing you to see what you truly value, what you truly control, and what you have been desperately trying to avoid. Think about the last profound challenge you faced. What did that experience destroy? It might have been capital, reputation, or a partnership. But more importantly, what did it reveal? 1. It revealed your true motivation. Did you fight to save the project because of the money or because of the principle and the vision? Crisis strips away superficial reasons, leaving only the fierce, authentic core of your why. 2. It revealed your weakest link. Crisis exposes the flaws in your strategy, the reliance on unstable variables, or the softness in your discipline. This exposure is painful, but it is a gift of information. You now know precisely where to focus your rebuilding efforts. 3. It revealed your internal resources. When external support vanishes, you discover the unshakable core of your resilience. You find the mental and emotional reserves you never knew you possessed. This is the moment you realize your greatest asset is not on a balance sheet, but locked within your self-command. The transformation of struggle into strength is an act of alchemy. It requires you to consciously reframe the event from a personal attack to a necessary instruction. When the difficulty hits, the natural human tendency is to immediately seek a solution or find a scapegoat. Your higher power lies in choosing the pause of profound inquiry. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask the catalytic questions. What fundamental truth about this situation or myself was I refusing to acknowledge? What old, outdated attachment must this destruction remove for me to evolve? How can I use the energy and information generated by this conflict to refine my focus and accelerate my next move? This reframing is key to igniting resilience. Resilience is not simply bouncing back to your original shape. It is bouncing forward to a more refined, more powerful version of yourself. It is about integrating the lesson of the struggle so completely that you are forever changed for the better. Let's consider the nature of betrayal, a form of crisis that cuts deeply into the foundation of trust. Betrayal is intensely painful precisely because it reveals a vulnerability you attempted to control. The instinct is to close off, to become cynical, or to retreat entirely. The mastery move, however, is to use that intense pain as a mirror. Betrayal tells you nothing about your worth, but it tells you everything about the precision of your judgment and discernment. It challenges you to refine your intuition, to tighten your due diligence, and to recognize that your energy must now be reserved only for those who have proven their alignment. The pain of the past becomes the unshakable foresight of the future. You emerge not wounded, but strategically wiser and far more discerning about where you choose to invest your powerful energy. Similarly, a financial setback is a direct command to refine your understanding of risk and resource management. Instead of obsessing over the lost capital, focus your intense concentration on understanding the mechanism of the failure. Was it insufficient research, poor timing, emotional interference? By dissecting the failure with cold, clinical precision, you extract the strategic lesson that is worth far more than the capital you lost. The setback is transformed into a highly valuable, tailored masterclass, accessible only to those who dare to study their own mistakes. The path of least resistance is to gloss over the failure, to externalize the blame, or to rush into the next venture to prove the previous failure didn't matter. The path of power is to sit in the ashes long enough to absorb the heat, extract the core lesson, and emerge with a focus that is sharp, refined, and entirely new. Your strength is not measured by the number of times you avoid struggle, but by the depth and quality of your transformation after each unavoidable crisis. The fire cleanses. It purifies your intentions and burns away the attachments to the comfortable, the superficial, and the unnecessary. Embrace the difficulty. Trust the cycle. Know that the conflict you are experiencing, financial, emotional, or professional, is not an accident. It is the precisely calibrated catalyst necessary for the next, more powerful phase of your becoming. The secret strength you possess is ignited not in ease, but in the white-hot intensity of your most difficult trials. Recall a significant struggle you overcame in your past. Instead of thinking of it as a painful memory, consciously identify the 3 most important non-obvious lessons you learned. Write them down. Recognize that the energy of that struggle is now permanently integrated into your character as unshakable competence. This recognition is the true reclaiming of your strength. Chapter 5. Breaking the chains. Escaping cycles that keep you bound. The crucible of crisis reveals the truth about your internal resources, but to move forward with unencumbered power, you must address the unseen forces that still drain your strength. Debt. Debt in this context is not merely financial. It is any invisible chain that keeps you tethered to the past, preventing the full, sovereign expression of your potential. It is the weight of old obligations, emotional, financial, or energetic, that you carry out of misplaced loyalty, unresolved fear, or a subconscious belief that you owe the universe something for your existence. This chapter is about radical autonomy. It's about recognizing what is borrowed from fear and what truly belongs to your authentic, evolving self. Until you break these chains, your immense energy, that intense, focused drive, will be split. Part of it will push you toward your future, but a significant portion will be constantly pulled backward, satisfying debts that should have long ago been settled or severed. Let's begin with emotional debt. This is perhaps the most insidious, because it operates entirely in the shadows of your relationships and your self-perception. Emotional debt manifests as a feeling of unending obligation to people who no longer serve your growth, or a compulsion to live up to expectations that were never truly yours. Do you operate under the unspoken rule that you must consistently sacrifice your own well-being to maintain the comfort or approval of a family member, a mentor, or a peer group? Do you cling to a victim narrative, a debt you feel the world owes you for past wrongs, which silently poisons your present opportunities? These debts are chains of fear. The fear of loneliness, the fear of judgment, or the fear of fully claiming responsibility for your own happiness. To break these chains, you must recognize your power to choose differently. Reclaiming autonomy over your energy begins with a clear, surgical boundary setting. You must identify the draining relationships where the exchange is consistently unequal, and where your intense, vibrant energy is being treated as an endless resource for someone else's stability. This is not about severing ties with malice. It is about establishing integrity with your own purpose. You set the boundary not to punish them, but to protect your future. The act of clearly communicating, or simply internally deciding, that you will no longer bear the burden of another person's emotional immaturity or unaddressed expectations is a profound act of self-liberation. You are declaring that your highest debt is to your own potential. Next, we address financial debt and the mindset around it. For the soul wired for sovereignty, financial debt is a particularly acute form of vulnerability. It means you are beholden to external forces, that a percentage of your labor is being directed by someone else's terms, not your own vision. The solution isn't just a budget, it's a psychological shift. You must stop treating debt as a necessary evil and start seeing it as an active enemy of your autonomy. The intensity you typically apply to market dominance or achieving a professional goal must now be ruthlessly focused on dismantling these liabilities. This requires facing the reality of the debt with the same unflinching honesty you apply to your shadow work. Dissect the origin of each liability. Was it a strategic investment, or was it an act of emotional spending, a rushed purchase driven by the fear of missing out, the need for immediate gratification, or the subconscious desire to feel temporarily powerful? By understanding the emotional trigger behind the debt, you dismantle its power. You transform the frantic urge to spend into a disciplined commitment to building and protecting value. Freedom is not about how much you earn, it's about how little you owe. When you owe nothing, every single resource you generate is a direct extension of your will and your vision. Finally, consider energetic debt. This is the subtle accumulation of small, incomplete tasks, unkept promises to yourself, and clutter, physical or digital, that binds up your mental focus. Every email left unanswered, every drawer left disorganized, and every project sitting at 90% completion is a tiny leak in your personal power structure. These fragments create a subtle, constant noise in your subconscious, drawing on your attention reserve. For a mind that operates with your depth and intensity, this noise is profoundly distracting and draining. Breaking the energetic chains requires a commitment to completion and clarity. Apply your signature intensity to ruthlessly finishing or decisively abandoning anything that is currently consuming mental bandwidth without offering a commensurate return. Clear the clutter, complete the small tasks, and honor the small promises you make to yourself. Every item you complete, every unnecessary possession you release, and every old obligation you finally settle is an act of reclaiming sovereignty. You are taking back the pieces of your attention that were scattered and fragmented, and you are integrating them back into a single, cohesive force. Dismantling these cycles, the emotional chains, the financial obligations, and the energetic clutter, is not a gentle process. It requires the disciplined, focused aggression of a surgeon cutting away diseased tissue. You must be prepared to make uncomfortable choices, disappoint those who relied on your compliance, and face the temporary anxiety of standing entirely alone in your truth. But this solitary stand is the definition of liberation. Freedom starts with recognizing your power to choose differently, to choose clarity over obligation, creation over anxiety, and your sovereign future over the chains of your past. Only then can your full, unburdened power be directed toward the world-shaping purpose you crave. Identify one cycle, emotional, financial, or energetic, that you find yourself repeating. This week, commit to a single radical action that actively breaks the pattern. This might be saying a decisive no, paying off a small but irritating debt, or finally completing a long-delayed task. Witness the immediate surge of reclaimed power that follows. Chapter 6. Secrets Unearthed. Harnessing Hidden Knowledge for Growth. You have cleared the external debris of debt and reclaimed your autonomy. Now, we dive deeper into the internal world to unlock the most potent source of your strength: hidden knowledge. True power is not built on public successes and polished resumes. It is forged in the depths of your inner world, in the silence, in the private patterns, and in the unspoken desires that influence every single choice you make. This chapter is about becoming your own deepest confidant and master analyst. It is about facing what was once hidden and transforming secrecy from a source of shame or vulnerability into a source of strategic advantage. We all hold secrets. Some are about past failures we fear will define us. Others are about desires so intense we worry they will be judged or misunderstood. We believe that by burying these truths, we gain safety. But every secret you keep, especially from yourself, acts as a vibrational drag. It consumes a silent portion of your energy, requiring constant policing and defense. Your task is to turn inward and excavate these truths. We are looking for the private patterns, the habitual thoughts, beliefs, or silent agreements you've made with yourself that no one else knows about. Think about the discrepancy between the person you present to the world and the person who wakes up at 3 in the morning. What are the silent anxieties that plague that person? What are the true, unvarnished goals that you are ashamed to admit because they feel too ambitious, too strange, or too unconventional? This excavation requires the ruthless honesty you've cultivated in the previous chapters. You are not judging these secrets. You are merely cataloging them. You are observing the private rules that govern your behavior. For example, you might uncover a silent fear that you are only one mistake away from financial ruin, regardless of your current success. This fear dictates that you must hoard resources, leading to missed strategic investment opportunities. Or, you might uncover an unspoken desire to abandon a successful, but creatively unfulfilling, path to pursue something entirely new. This desire creates internal conflict, leading to procrastination and muted enthusiasm in your current work. The moment you face these hidden truths, you perform a powerful transformation. You bring the unconscious into the light of the conscious mind. Secrecy is a weakness because it allows the hidden force to operate without accountability. Knowledge is power because it allows you to choose how to wield that force. The things you keep secret are often the keys to your most profound motivations and limits. If you fear public failure, a secret shame, you will unconsciously pull back right before the moment of ultimate commitment, ensuring that your outcome is never truly spectacular, but merely safe. Once you know this pattern, you can override the fear with intentional, aggressive action. If your truest, unspoken desire is for mastery over a niche subject, but your public identity is tied to a broader, more acceptable field, the internal conflict will sap your focus. By acknowledging the secret desire, you can strategically begin to pivot your resources and energy, aligning your outward action with your deepest passion. This is the process of harnessing hidden knowledge for growth. This knowledge becomes a compass, guiding your choices with precision and wisdom that appears intuitive to others, but which you know is simply the result of intense self-study. To facilitate this work, establish a ritual of private reckoning. This is a time of non-negotiable solitude where you sit with the specific intention of allowing these private truths to surface. Write them down, not in a public journal but in a secure, private document. The act of externalizing the internal truth makes it tangible, searchable, and manageable. Do not seek to eliminate these truths immediately. Seek only to understand them. Ask, what is the history of this belief? How is this private pattern currently serving or sabotaging my highest ambition? If I acted in full alignment with this unspoken truth, what would my day-to-day choices look like? The insights you gain here are your most valuable, proprietary assets. They are the secrets to your operating system. They tell you exactly where your triggers are, where your greatest drive lies, and where your blind spots still persist. You move from a state of being managed by your internal world to a state of managing your internal world. This is the distinction between a talented individual and a true master. The master has leveraged their self-knowledge to eliminate unnecessary friction and internal resistance. When you integrate this complexity, when you stop trying to present a perfectly polished, simple version of yourself, your external actions gain depth and authority. Your decisions are grounded not in popular opinion or superficial strategy, but in the unshakable foundation of complete self-knowledge. You become magnetic because your integrity is whole. The person people see is fundamentally the same as the person you are in the quiet of your own mind. There is no more energy wasted on maintaining the facade. The power to command external influence begins with the power to command your own truth. Face what was once hidden, own it, and use that knowledge to plot a course forward with precision, clarity, and an authority that comes only from knowing yourself completely. This week, dedicate one block of non-negotiable private time, at least 30 minutes, to writing down 3 private truths, fears, or unspoken desires that you never admit to anyone else. Analyze them, not to change them, but to understand the energy they consume. Recognize that this act of honesty is the genesis of your greatest strategic advantage. Chapter 7. The Phoenix Rising, Rebirth Through Loss and Renewal. You have faced your hidden knowledge and harnessed the wisdom buried in your shadows. The intensity of your journey now leads to the most profound act of power, rebirth. Transformation is not simply the act of building something new. It first requires the courage to allow the old to die. Inevitably, to pursue the level of wealth, influence, and mastery you crave, you must shed outdated beliefs, habits, and even attachments to former versions of yourself that no longer serve your ascent. This shedding process is rarely gentle. It is a moment of intense, concentrated loss that often feels like destruction. The destruction of the old self is not failure. It is the crucible in which resilience, clarity, and true mastery are forged. Consider the metaphor of the phoenix. The phoenix does not just fly away from its past. It willingly enters the flames, reducing itself to ash. That ash is not the end. It is the highly concentrated essence from which the new, more powerful form emerges. Your work in this chapter is to consciously, deliberately, and strategically identify what needs to enter the flame. What are the beliefs, habits, or attachments that are now holding you back? The attachments that must burn first. The attachment to your former identity. Many people cling fiercely to who they were, the titles they held, the relationships that defined them, the comfortable routines of their past success. But if you are chasing a future that is radically different from your past, your old identity is a lead weight. You must look at your life and ask, what parts of my current self-concept are merely souvenirs of the past? Which self-imposed labels are limiting the magnitude of the person I am becoming? This might be the identity of the perfectionist that prevents you from shipping imperfect work, or the identity of the scrappy underdog that stops you from fully owning your authority. Consciously choose to release these defining memories and labels. The new you requires a blank slate, free from the expectations of the former self. Second, the attachment to a specific outcome. Ambition fuels you, but obsession is born when you become so fixated on one singular path, or result, that you lose all strategic flexibility. This attachment to the how, the idea that success can only arrive in one specific package, is a vulnerability. When a crisis hits, it often annihilates the specific path you were on. Your power lies in your ability to mourn the loss quickly, extract the resources, and pivot with lightning speed. You surrender the attachment to that outcome so you can be available for the highest possible outcome. This is strategic emotional detachment, a necessary skill for command and influence. Third, the attachment to safe thinking. The level of success you are moving toward demands a shift in your internal risk tolerance. Old beliefs that felt safe but small, like avoiding major investment, prioritizing certainty over growth, or seeking consensus rather than charting your own course, must be consciously sacrificed. You must allow these comfortable, limiting thought patterns to burn away, replacing them with a disciplined willingness to operate at the edge of your competence and comfort. The alchemy of the ashes. When you let these things go, the resulting experience can be a temporary state of vulnerability and disorientation. This feeling is not failure, it is the ash. This is the moment of greatest potential. In this space of radical renewal, you integrate the lessons of loss which become the raw material of your new strength. 1. Clarity of principle. Loss strips away everything non-essential, revealing the core, non-negotiable principles that truly matter. You emerge with a clearer understanding of your ethical boundaries, your value system, and the primary purpose that anchors your ambition. 2. Unbreakable resilience. Having gone through the fire and survived, you gain a deep internal certainty that you can withstand any future upheaval. This is not bravado. It is the quiet, authoritative confidence that comes from proven endurance. This resilience is your shield against future fear. 3. Refined focus. The things you let go of, the wasted effort, the poor investments, the toxic relationships, provide a perfect map of what to avoid moving forward. The rebirth is a recommitment to only what is high leverage and high integrity. This process of rebirth is an active choice, not a passive event. You do not wait for the universe to burn the old away. You strategically identify what is draining you and purposefully sever the tie. Be ruthless in your inventory. What unfinished business are you dragging into your next decade? What old grudges are you still carrying that only serve to punish yourself? What financial mistakes are you still obsessing over that should simply be liquidated and learned from? The phoenix rising is not a miracle. It is the logical consequence of concentrated intention. You emerge revitalized, unburdened, and ready to pursue wealth, influence, and purpose with a vision that has been purified by fire. This new vision is not just a plan. It is a destiny you have actively chosen and meticulously forged from the ashes of your past limitations. Identify one major belief or attachment this week that you know is an artifact of your past self and is actively slowing your current ambition. This could be a specific routine, a piece of old advice you adhere to, or a relationship that requires too much maintenance. Formally commit to letting it go, making space for the new, more powerful version of yourself to fully occupy its potential. Chapter 8. Power Reclaimed. Commanding influence with integrity. You have risen from the ashes, purified and resolute. The rebirth has given you a renewed vision and an unburdened focus. Now, you are ready for the most conscious stage of your journey, learning to wield power with integrity. Having faced your shadows, dissected your desires, and survived the crisis, you possess an internal authority that is unshakable. This power is earned from self-knowledge, not derived from external validation, titles, or net worth. It is a quiet, authoritative force that commands respect because it is entirely whole. The external world is always testing this power. It throws opportunities and temptations designed to see if you will revert to old patterns of control or compromise. Your task is to transition from simply having power to consciously commanding influence in a way that amplifies your integrity, rather than diminishing it. The new architecture of influence commanding influence is built on a foundation of clarity and non-negotiable boundaries. Because you understand the immense, consuming nature of your own intensity, you must be precise about where that energy is deployed, and more importantly, where it is withheld. 1. Asserting influence ethically. The temptation for someone with your level of drive is to enforce compliance, to use influence as a weapon for immediate control. But this is the strategy of a tyrant, and it always leads to brittle, short-lived results. True, lasting influence is an invitation to alignment, not a demand for submission. Lead with conviction, not domination. You assert influence by clearly and calmly articulating your vision, your principles, and the non-negotiable standards of execution. Your power lies in your unwavering certainty, which inspires confidence, rather than in aggressive posturing, which inspires resistance. Focus on the what, release the how. You set the strategic destination with absolute clarity. The what, you then grant the capable people around you the autonomy to navigate the path, the how. This respects their expertise, cultivates fierce loyalty, and ensures that your energy remains focused on the highest level strategy, rather than micromanagement. Wield information, not manipulation. Your previous work in unearthing secrets has taught you the immense power of hidden knowledge. Use this foresight and deep understanding of human nature to anticipate challenges and structure agreements transparently. Never use it to manipulate, because the moment your intent is perceived as deceptive, the integrity of your influence shatters instantly and is almost impossible to repair. 2. Maintaining unwavering boundaries. Boundaries are the immune system of your sovereignty. When you command influence, people will attempt to breach these boundaries, often unconsciously, out of need or desperation. Your job is to maintain them with quiet, consistent strength. The power of the decisive no. Learn to deliver a no that requires no justification or emotional explanation. A no delivered from a place of clear self-command is a declaration of your priorities. For a soul of your intensity, protecting your time and focus is the single greatest act of strategic self-preservation. When you say no to something misaligned, you are saying a powerful yes to your core purpose. Non-negotiable energy protection. Recognize that your intense empathy can be a vulnerability. When engaging with high-stakes situations or draining individuals, deploy a conscious internal shield. Participate fully in the challenge, but refuse to absorb the emotional chaos or fear of others. Your role is to be the calm center, the anchor of clarity, not the container for generalized anxiety. 3. Integrating the shadow in leadership. Having made peace with your own intensity, ambition, and darker impulses, you can now lead with a profound sense of psychological completeness. A leader who has ignored their shadow is brittle and prone to self-sabotage when triggered. A leader who has integrated their shadow is grounded and magnetic. They understand the full spectrum of human motivation, the fierce ambition, the fear of loss, the temptation to compromise, because they have confronted these forces within themselves. This understanding allows you to lead with deeper insight. You can anticipate unspoken concerns, negotiate from a position of knowing the other party's hidden agenda, and deliver feedback that is piercingly honest yet profoundly developmental. When you step into a position of command, your power becomes a tool for impact. You are not seeking validation from the outside world. You are simply enacting your internal, earned truth. Your confidence is not the loud, defensive boast of the insecure. It is the quiet, authoritative presence of the person who knows, without a shadow of a doubt, the depth of their capacity and the integrity of their intentions. This reclaimed power is a continuous practice. It demands that you regularly check your motives, ensuring that your pursuit of influence is always serving your highest purpose, and never slipping back into the desperate, empty chase of ego-driven control. Command the power, and it will serve your vision. Let it command you, and it will lead you back into the shadows you fought so hard to escape. Identify one situation this week where you feel pressured to compromise your standards or over-explain a boundary. Before responding, pause and deliberately align with your internal earned authority. Deliver your decision, whether it is an assertion of a standard or a firm no, with the minimum necessary words and no further justification. Experience the quiet, immediate power of unshakable self-command. Chapter 9. Mastering Desire. Aligning ambition with purpose. You have reclaimed your power and learned to command influence with integrity. You now stand at a pivotal moment, the transformation of longing into lasting disciplined focus. Desire is no longer a wild, unexamined master. It is ready to become a clear, powerful guide. The challenge now is not to suppress your ambition. That immense, driving intensity is essential to your success, but to ensure that the intensity serves your highest purpose rather than distracting you from it. Mastery in its truest sense is measured not by possession, but by the control you exert over your inner world, specifically the alignment of your ambition. The transformation of longing. We must first look at how to transform raw, persistent longing into a disciplined focus. Longing, left to itself, is a restless, consuming force. It always asks, "What am I missing?" Disciplined focus, however, asks, "What am I building?" This transformation requires a final, unsparing audit of your ambition. Go back to the core desires you unearthed earlier, the cravings for autonomy, respect, and monumental impact. Now filter each of them through the lens of your earned wisdom. Is this desire still driven by a defensive need, e.g., to prove someone wrong to escape an old fear? If so, you must pause and address that root feeling, neutralizing its compulsive power. Is this desire a true expression of my sovereign vision, e.g., to create a lasting structure to fund a significant mission? If so, it is clean, powerful energy ready to be channeled. The difference lies in the emotional resonance. If pursuing a goal feels frantic, driven by external timelines, or based on comparison, it is the old longing acting as a master. If pursuing a goal feels deliberate, centered, and fueled by a deep, quiet certainty, it is the new, mastered desire acting as a guide. The architecture of purpose aligning ambition with purpose gives your intensity its highest leverage. Purpose acts as a magnetic north, pulling all your actions into a single, cohesive line, eliminating the wasteful friction of internal conflict. Think of your purpose not as a gentle aspiration, but as a commanding directive, a statement so resonant with your core values that it justifies the full, relentless force of your ambition. Purpose is the why that survives the what. Wealth and influence are what you achieve. Purpose is why you bother. If you suddenly lost all your external achievements, your purpose must be the internal structure that remains completely intact. Purpose as a filter. When a new opportunity arises, a potential investment, a partnership, a deviation in strategy, you must run it through the high-intensity filter of your purpose. Does this opportunity accelerate my core mission? Does it align with my hard-won principles? If the answer is anything less than an emphatic yes, you wield the power of the decisive no. This discipline is what prevents your intense focus from becoming fragmented. The great danger for those with immense capacity is scattering. The temptation to pursue every viable opportunity simply because you can is high. But mastery demands concentration. You must commit your ambition to a narrow, deep channel, ensuring that the torrent of your energy carves a path, rather than merely spreading thin across the landscape. Wealth as amplifier, not destination. The relationship between your ambition and wealth must be redefined. Wealth, when aligned with purpose, becomes an amplifier, a tool that allows you to execute your vision at a greater speed and scale. It is not the ultimate destination, but the necessary resource to remove the external friction standing between you and your mission. This perspective is crucial. When wealth is the destination, it often leads to ethical compromises and a hollow experience once achieved. When it is merely an amplifier, your ethical foundation remains uncompromised, because the value is derived from the impact and the expression of your purpose, not the money itself. To maintain this alignment, regularly practice the sovereign mindset. 1. Detach from the outcome's public perception. Focus your energy on the integrity of the process and the purity of the execution. The external applause, the public metrics, and the accolades are secondary effects. Your mastery is internal, measured by your self-command and the authenticity of your action. 2. Redefine risk. Risk is no longer a potential loss of capital. It is the potential loss of integrity or the potential loss of alignment with your purpose. This shift in definition makes you fearless in the face of financial challenges, but fiercely protective of your inner compass. 3. Use your resources intentionally. Examine how your wealth and influence are currently deployed. Are they funding activities that reinforce your purpose, or are they being wasted on distractions that feed the ego? Redeploy resources with the same surgical precision you use to define your strategy. Every investment, every dollar, every moment of your attention should be an active extension of your commanding directive. Mastering desire means that your ambition, once a source of internal conflict, is now the source of your unwavering momentum. You transform longing into disciplined focus by ensuring that every fierce impulse you possess is immediately channeled into an action that serves the truth of your purpose. The pursuit of wealth and influence is no longer a personal quest for status, but a necessary, strategic component of a greater, more meaningful creation. Take 10 minutes of quiet, uninterrupted time this week. Write down the single, commanding directive, your true purpose, that your ambition must serve. Keep this statement brief and forceful. Use it as the ultimate filter for every major decision you face over the next few weeks, allowing it to instantly cut through distraction and misaligned opportunity. Chapter 10. The Alchemy of Wealth. Creating Sustainable Prosperity. You have mastered desire, aligning your fierce ambition with a commanding purpose. This internal alignment is the crucial precursor to creating sustainable prosperity. Financial freedom is not a matter of luck or chance. It is a direct mirror of your emotional mastery. The pursuit of wealth, when divorced from inner work, is fleeting and chaotic. It's a boom and bust cycle driven by emotional reaction, fear leading to hoarding, or ego leading to overspending and risk. But when your inner world is ordered, disciplined, and aligned, your external financial life begins to reflect that harmony. Abundance is no longer a temporary state. It becomes sustainable, reflecting the deliberate harmony between strategy, intuition, and unshakable self-awareness. Transmuting obstacles into assets, the alchemy of wealth begins with the principle you mastered in crisis, turning obstacles into opportunities. For many, a financial setback, a bad investment, a market correction, an unexpected expense is perceived as a defeat. For you, it must be viewed as raw material. The obstacle is never the event itself. It is the unexamined assumption or flaw in the system that the event reveals. When an investment fails, don't focus on the lost capital. Apply your signature intensity to dissecting the mechanism of failure. Was it a lack of due diligence, a flaw in strategy? Was it an emotional decision driven by urgency, a flaw in self-command? Was it betting on an unaligned venture, a flaw in purpose? By extracting the specific, actionable lesson from the pain, you transform the setback into a piece of proprietary knowledge. This knowledge makes your next 20 decisions safer, more precise, and ultimately more profitable. The loss, therefore, becomes an asset, a highly valuable, non-replicable piece of education that guarantees your future success at a much higher level. This is the essence of financial alchemy. Building systems for sovereignty, sustainable prosperity is less about singular transactions and more about building enduring systems. A system is a disciplined structure that supports growth while protecting your integrity, allowing you to deploy your intense focus on high-leverage activities, not daily maintenance. For a mind geared toward command, the goal of a financial system is sovereignty, the ability to have your resources grow and protect themselves without your constant, anxious intervention. 1. Systemic protection, the shield. Implement rigorous standards for protecting your capital. This involves disciplined risk diversification and the ruthless elimination of high-risk, low-reward ventures. Your intense focus on integrity means you prioritize the security of your foundation over the fleeting seduction of reckless, short-term gains. Your emotional mastery ensures you don't chase the high of extreme risk. 2. Systemic growth, the engine. Your growth systems must align precisely with your purpose. This ensures that every investment is not only financially sound, but also a direct extension of your highest values. Wealth accumulated through purpose-aligned systems provides not just capital, but profound satisfaction and moral strength. 3. Systemic autonomy, the lever. Structure your resources so that a percentage of your capital is always working independently of your current labor. This is the financial definition of freedom. The moment your passive income can cover your necessary expenses, your labor becomes a pure act of choice and purpose, rather than an obligation. The inner economy. Integrity as currency, the greatest long-term factor in sustainable wealth, is the integrity of your inner economy. This means the alignment between your stated values and your financial actions must be perfect. When you operate with compromise, cutting corners, engaging in deceptive practices, or using your influence to disadvantage others. You introduce vibrational drag into your system. This friction, even if it leads to short-term gain, eventually manifests as major setbacks, legal exposure, eroded trust, or profound internal conflict that splinters your focus. For someone of your psychological depth, compromise is a form of self-betrayal, and the internal cost of that betrayal will always outweigh the external gain. Conversely, when every transaction, every partnership, and every investment is conducted with unshakable integrity, you build a reputational capital that is more valuable than any bank balance. This capital attracts the highest quality partners, the most lucrative long-term opportunities, and grants you an authoritative power built on trust. Integrity is the ultimate non-depleting asset. The alchemy of wealth, therefore, is a continuous practice of harmonization. You balance the aggressive, intense application of strategy with the quiet, intuitive wisdom of your purpose. You use your capacity for depth to see past the superficial market noise and make decisions grounded in your strategic foresight and inner truth. Your prosperity becomes a natural, inevitable overflow of your disciplined self-command. Choose one aspect of your current financial life, a budget, an investment, or a recurring expense, that feels chaotic or reactive. Apply your highest intensity to bringing order to it this week. Dissect its origin, eliminate any emotional rationale, and build a small, simple system to manage it automatically and precisely. Experience the peace that comes from turning financial anxiety into strategic control. Chapter 11. Shadows Integrated. Embracing complexity to lead with confidence. You have achieved alignment. Your ambition is focused, and your wealth is becoming a sustainable reflection of your inner order. Now, we arrive at the ultimate stage of psychological mastery. Integration. Integration means consciously acknowledging all facets of yourself, the fierce light of your ambition, the necessary restraint of your discipline, the raw power of your desire, and the wisdom held in your past shadows. You stop trying to be a simplified, one-dimensional version of yourself and embrace your full, inherent complexity. The greatest source of internal conflict is the perpetual war waged against the parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable. For the highly driven, this often means fighting against impulses that seem too aggressive, too vulnerable, or too dark. You spent earlier chapters shining a light on these shadows. Now, you must invite them into the main room of your consciousness and treat them as strategic allies. From conflict to clarity, internal conflict is the opposite of power. It creates a stutter in your conviction, a hesitancy in your action, and a lack of authentic resonance in your influence. When you are fighting your own shadow, say, the need for absolute control, you waste mental energy and project an unstable signal. Integration transforms this internal conflict into clarity. It is the recognition that your intense, almost ruthless drive to succeed is inextricably linked to your profound fear of insignificance. You stop trying to eradicate the fear, and instead use the energy it generates to fuel your strategic action. For example, instead of judging the dark, intrusive thought that says, "I must crush the competition," you acknowledge its primal energy. You then consciously transmute that energy into the disciplined focus required to out-innovate, out-execute, and strategically dominate the market, always within the bounds of your hard-won integrity. The impulse is recognized. The action is chosen. This process of integration creates a leadership that is both magnetic and profoundly grounded. You become magnetic because you are fully present. There is no energy leak spent on maintaining a false persona. You are grounded because your decisions are informed by a deep, three-dimensional understanding of human nature, including your own. The power of paradoxical leadership, true influence, arises from embracing and embodying complexity. Integrated leadership allows you to hold seemingly contradictory truths simultaneously. Ferocity and fairness. You can negotiate with unyielding intensity to achieve the best outcome, while ensuring the process itself, is entirely ethical and transparent. You are fierce in the pursuit of the goal but fair in the application of the rules. Detachment and deep care. You can maintain the strategic detachment necessary to make difficult, unsentimental decisions for the long-term health of your enterprise, while simultaneously caring deeply for the well-being and growth of the individuals within it. You act from principle, not popular emotion, vulnerability, and authority. You are willing to acknowledge when you do not know the answer or when a mistake was made, vulnerability, which paradoxically solidifies your authority. A leader who admits complexity and fallibility is trusted far more than one who projects an unattainable, false perfection. When shadows are integrated, your decisions gain depth, foresight, and resilience. You can anticipate sabotage because you recognize the capacity for it within yourself. You can lead complex teams because you understand the nuanced motivations that drive people. The unstoppable resonance, the ultimate expression of integration, is an unshakable confidence that comes from self-acceptance. You no longer need external validation because you have completed your own inner reckoning. This integrated confidence is not aggressive. It is quiet, pervasive, and instantly recognizable. It is the deep, settled assurance of a person who has done the difficult, subterranean work and knows exactly what they are made of. Your integrity is no longer a code of conduct. It is an internal state of wholeness. You have merged the light of your conscious ambition with the power of your instinctual, hidden self. Every choice you make reflects this synthesis, lending your actions a weight and certainty that cannot be countered. True influence arises from understanding yourself fully, integrating all your parts and leading from that place of profound, undeniable truth. Identify one action you took this week where you felt an internal conflict, a feeling that you were acting against your own instinct or a principle. Acknowledge the two opposing forces in that conflict, e.g., the need for quick profit versus the need for long-term trust. Commit to a small, decisive action next week that strategically honors both energies in a way that aligns with your ultimate purpose, transforming conflict into a cohesive strategy. Chapter 12. Sovereign Self. Living with mastery, influence, and freedom. You stand now at the culmination of this intense, transformative journey. You have done the deepest work. You have faced the fire of desire, integrated your shadows, survived the crucible of crisis, and built a foundation of unwavering integrity. The path was not one of comfort, but of profound reckoning. The final stage is not a new skill to acquire, but a state of being to occupy, sovereignty. Sovereignty is the state where desire, power, and balance are fully aligned. It is the lived experience of mastery. Wealth and influence are no longer external pursuits that define your worth. They are the inevitable, intentional tools of your creative will. Here, freedom is complete because every single choice you make reflects your highest vision and your deepest inner truth. The true measure of mastery is not an abstract goal you perpetually chase. It is lived daily through clarity, purpose, and unwavering self-command. How do you know you have achieved this sovereign state? 1. Emotional neutrality to external events. You still feel things intensely. That is your nature. But you are no longer consumed by them. Financial gains do not inflate your ego, and setbacks do not shatter your core. You observe events, extract information, and respond strategically, maintaining the stillness of the eye within the storm. 2. The absence of internal conflict. The relentless war between the person you are and the person you should be has ended. You have integrated your light and shadow. Your actions are whole, clean, and entirely purposeful, flowing directly from your established, non-negotiable principles. 3. The irrelevance of external validation. Your worth is an internal certainty. You seek counsel, you value expertise, but you require no external approval to validate your vision or your methods. You act from a place of knowing, which is the highest form of confidence. Freedom as intentional creation. When you are truly sovereign, your freedom is not merely the absence of constraints. It is the intentional creation of a life perfectly tailored to your purpose. The wealth and influence you wield are simply the means to eliminate all accidental elements from your life. They allow you to design your days, your environment, and your relationships with absolute precision. Every investment of your time, capital, and energy is a conscious decision that reinforces your core directive. Choice over obligation. You operate entirely from choice. You engage in projects because they align with your purpose, not because of a desperate need for income or validation. Your labor becomes a deliberate form of self-expression. Design over default. You stop accepting the defaults of culture, society, or past habits. You proactively design your daily routine, your intellectual input, and your energetic boundaries. This design reflects your deep knowledge of what allows you to operate at your highest intensity and clarity. Impact over accumulation. Your focus shifts from relentlessly accumulating resources to strategically deploying them for maximum impact. You become a masterful steward of your power, recognizing that true legacy is built on the quality and reach of your influence, not the size of your holdings. The continuous practice of sovereignty is not a destination where you permanently rest. It is a continuous practice of rigorous alignment. The world is constantly trying to pull you back into fragmentation and external seeking. Your ongoing work is to hold the line. This practice requires 1. Regular reckoning. Never stop the work of deep introspection. Regularly audit your desires, check your motives, and ensure that your ambition is still clean, serving purpose over ego. 2. Unwavering boundaries. Re-establish and reinforce your non-negotiable boundaries daily. Protect your silence, guard your focus, and only allow energy exchanges that reinforce your sovereignty. 3. Willingness to transform. Embrace the knowledge that sovereignty means you are never finished evolving. Be willing to burn down systems, beliefs, or relationships the moment they cease to serve your truth. The phoenix must always be ready for the next cycle of necessary destruction and greater rebirth. The mastery you sought is here. It is not found in an external achievement, but in the internal command center you have built through unflinching self-awareness. Live from this place of sovereignty. Wield your intense energy with discipline. Use your wealth and influence as tools of intentional creation. The freedom you have earned is the recognition that the ultimate power lies not in controlling the world, but in the absolute, unshakable control you have established over your own self. This is the deep end of becoming. This is your power reclaimed. Pause and close your eyes. Feel the intense, disciplined energy you have cultivated. Make one internal, unshakable promise to yourself, that you will never again compromise your purpose or your integrity for the comfort or approval of others. Live this day from the position of your fully realized, sovereign self.